Welcome to the React Diagram tutorial. In this video, I will show you how to save and export a diagram in the Syncfusion React Diagram component. You will also see how to save and load a diagram as a JSON string or file stream, and how to export and print the diagram in various file formats. First, I'll open a React application containing the diagram component with nodes and connectors that renders a flowchart. To learn more about integrating the diagram component into a React application, please check the Getting Started video linked in the card above and the description below. I run this application using the npm start command. The diagram canvas renders with the specified flowchart. Next, I will show you how to save and load the diagram. A diagram can be saved using a JSON string or a file stream. First, I'll save the diagram using a JSON string format and load it using the same string. I will use a button click to save it. So inside the app.tsx file, let me add a division element above the diagram container with a class name button container. Add a button element with a class name and set the content to save. Then add the onClick event with an event handler name. I define the onSave event handler method. To access the diagram component during runtime, add the ref attribute and assign a variable name. Now I define the diagram ref variable using the useRef hook and import the useRef hook from the React package. I also define a state variable, diagram data, to store the JSON string. The useState hook is imported from the React package. Inside the onSave method, I create a variable, saveData, and store the data from the saveDiagram function from the diagram's current instance. Then, using the setDiagramDataState function, I store the saved data. When the Save button is clicked, the diagram will be stored as a JSON string in the diagram data variable. To visualize that, let me add a console log and log the saved data. To align the elements, I open the app.css file and apply styles to the button container and button classes. Now, when I click the Save button, the diagram will be saved as a string in the variable diagram data. I press the function 12 key to inspect the page and open the developer console. Here I can see the diagram data logged as a JSON string. Next, I will show you how to load this JSON into the diagram canvas. So, add another button with the content load. I also change the onClick event handler method to onLoad. I then define this function and add an if condition to confirm the diagram data is not null. When the condition is satisfied, let me load the diagram by invoking loadDiagram with the diagram data as input. This will load the JSON that was stored earlier into the diagram canvas. To show the load operation, I select and delete all the elements in the canvas. Clicking the Load button renders the diagram as it was before. Next, I'll show you how to save and load a diagram as a file stream. First, I need to save the diagram as JSON data to a file. For that, I create a method called download by receiving JSON data. This function will perform the necessary steps to initiate the file download. I create a new anchor element using the document's createElement method. Set the anchor element's href attribute to the JSON data URL. I encode the JSON data using the encodeURI component function to ensure it is correctly formatted for a URL. Then I set the download attribute of the anchor element to specify the file name for the downloaded file. Append the anchor element to the document body. This adds the anchor element to the web page. I call the click method to trigger the click event programmatically. This simulates a click on the link, which initiates the download process. Finally, I remove the anchor element from the document body to keep the DOM clean after the download is initiated. To call this download method, I reuse the same onSave method. I comment out the existing code and call the download function by passing the save data variable. When I click the Save button, the diagram is saved as a JSON file. Next, I will show you how to load a diagram using the file stream using the Syncfusion Uploader component. As I'm going to use the Syncfusion React Uploader component, I install the Syncfusion EJ2 React Inputs package by running the npm install at syncfusion/EJ2 React Inputs command. In the app.tsx file, import the Uploader component. Add a division element below the button container and the Uploader component inside. In this division element, I set a style, display none, so that the Uploader component remains hidden. I will use a button component on the web page to trigger the upload option for better visualization. Inside the Uploader component, set the async settings property with a variable name. Then, define the async settings variable and assign an object. Here, add the save URL property and assign a valid service action link necessary to handle the upload operation on the server. Next, I will execute the operations once the JSON file upload is successful. In the Uploader component, set the success event with an event handler method file upload success. This ensures that the React.js event handling pattern is correct and this component remains reactive. Implement the file upload success method that receives an argument, args. To read the file, I define a reader variable and assign a new file reader object. Using the reader variable, bind the onLoadEnd event with an inline arrow function and call the diagram instance's loadDiagram method by passing the reader's result as an argument. The file readers on the loadEnd event will be triggered when the file reading operation completes. I call the readAsText method and pass the argument file's raw file property. It is best to set up event handlers before starting asynchronous operations to ensure they're ready to handle events as they occur. Next, I will retrieve the Uploader component and trigger its Browse button's click event programmatically to initiate the upload operation. To access the Uploader component's Browse button, I need to access the division element and its child button elements. I comment out the existing code in the onLoad method. Next, I'll use the document's query selector and pass the class name of the division element that holds the Upload button of the Uploader component. Then, use the query selector method and pass the element name button. Call the click method so that it triggers the Browse button's click event programmatically. In the diagram canvas, to show the load operation, I select and delete all the elements. When I click the Load button, the file selection dialog pops up, allowing me to choose a JSON file. You can see the diagram loaded using the already downloaded JSON file. Next, I will show you how to export a diagram. The Syncfusion React Diagram supports exporting in PNG, JPG, and SVG formats. To export in PNG, I add one more button inside the button container with the content export and the onClick event with the handler's name, onExport. I define this onExport method, and inside invoke the export diagram function from the diagram's current instance. Pass an object with the properties, mode with the value download, and format with the value PNG. To make the export-related functionalities available, I need to import the necessary module. So, in the J2 React Diagrams import statement, I import the print and export class and the inject module. Then, within the diagram component, I inject the print and export class. When I click the Export button, the diagram is exported in PNG format. A particular region of the diagram can also be exported. It can be exported based on page settings, content, and custom bounds. The default value is content. Now let me show you how exporting using the page settings value works. In the Export Diagram function, set the region property to page settings and set the page height and width properties to 800 pixels. The diagram will be exported in the defined page settings now. When I click the Export button, the diagram is exported in PNG format, with a size of 800 x 800. Similarly, I can print the diagram using the print method. In the button container, I add one more button with the content print and the onClick event with the event handler onPrint. Then implement the callback method onPrint. Inside, I invoke the print function from the current diagram instance. I add the mode property with the value data. To customize the print region, I copy and paste the same code from the export diagram function so that I can print the same region as mentioned in page settings.